Hello and welcome to Pinstripe Pulse. This is our holiday episode. We're going to go over some of the gifts that we got in free agency, as well as some of our wish list items for the 2023 season. Let's hit it. Hello and welcome back to Pinstripe Pulse. My name is Liam. I am joined by my friend Tom Murphy, who I'll refer throughout the episode as Tom or Chef interchangeably. Chef, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Liam. How's everything going? I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Feeling great. We are recording on Christmas Eve, so I'm excited for this Christmas weekend and getting some extra days off from work too. I have off on Monday. I am technically on the clock today, but we don't have to talk about that for now. And yeah, when are you out still with school?
This is my first day of break.
Nice.
So yesterday is my last day. We had our holiday show at school and everything, and I'm off today. I have off all next week, and I don't go back until the 3rd. So it's a Tuesday.
Awesome. Cool. So we have some gifts to talk about, as well as our wish list, as I said in the intro. I'm here in Saratoga, New York. This is where my girlfriend's family lives, so my setup's a little bit different. I don't have my Yankees stuff at home on the walls. Jeff, coming to us from North Jersey.
I am coming to you from North Jersey in I guess it's my older sister's room technically, but yes, that's just where my computer is. So
cool. Well, welcome everybody, and we thank you for listening in around Christmas or the holidays or whenever you listen to this episode. So a few things to get to before we get into our Yankees wish list. First thing we had spoken about on the podcast right before the Rodon signing about Rodon, but we never talked about his signing. So Carlos Rodon signs with the Yankees on a 6-year, $162 million deal, which averages out to $27 million per year. He was formerly of the Chicago White Sox and of the Giants last year. And yeah, Chef, what do you think about the deal?
Liam, I think it's a great deal. The White Sox get Benintendi. We get Carlos Rodon. We get a guy who has a sub-3 ERA. He's 6'3". He just turned 30. Big lefty arm. And I think he's going to slot, I would assume, presumably, would slot right into the 2 spot in the Yankee rotation behind Gerrit Cole.
Yeah.
Things that jump out to me, Liam. I'm not a big WAR guy. I don't usually look at WAR, but he's 14-8, had a 2.88 ERA, a sub-3. He started 31 games, and the thing that really jumps out to me, Liam, 178 innings pitched last year. You love the health. You love that he's able to get on the field. Now, I think it's a great signing. How do you feel about it, Liam?
Yeah, I feel great too. And ultimately, I view everything with the Yankees, especially how talented this team is, through the prism of what the postseason looks like, because I think this Yankees team without him should get to the postseason still pretty comfortably, at least as a wild card team. But if you look at our 3 postseason wins last year, 2 of them were Gerrit Cole starts, our number 1. And one of them was a gritty Nestor Cortez performance in a Game 5 at home with inoptimal conditions for the Guardians. We were there. It was awesome energy in the stadium. Nestor was on short rest and he gave us like 5 innings solid, which was an awesome performance by him. But for you to double down on at the high end, Rodon has Gerrit Cole potential. He doesn't have quite the consistency in his career that Cole has, but he's still a number 1 for a lot of teams in baseball. So to have him as your number 2, he's a number 1 level option. Like you said, he's been an innings eater the last 2 years. Even with a slight injury at the end of 2021. So to have a guy that consistently can give you 6 to 8 innings, that's going to be a really important piece. And you mentioned the ERA. So there's another statistic, which it's debated how it's calculated, but it's called FIP, Fielding Independent Pitching, which is basically an advanced stat that predicts what your ERA would be if it weren't for your fielders and if it weren't for your park factor. It takes like the average park factor, and Rodon led MLB in FIP last year, including Sandy Alcantara, who won the Cy Young in the NL, as well as Justin Verlander in the AL. So his ERA was below 3. His FIP was at 2.28, I think. What was it? FIP 2.25. So that is taking him out of the Giants defensive fielding, who the Giants were a really bad defensive team last year, and the Yankees were the best in the American League. So maybe that goes up, but also we have to consider the park factor as well.
Correct, Liam. That is my. It's not even like a knock on Rodon. It's just a concern in general when you go and pitch at Yankee Stadium. It's a blessing and a curse. Lefties want to hit at Yankee Stadium. The opposite field hitters like DJ LeMahieu really takes advantage of the short porch in right field. So that's a concern for me because Gerrit Cole, one of the best in baseball, his ERA was a 3.5. And his kryptonite pretty much was the home run ball. That short porch in right field really killed Gerrit Cole. Now, Liam, we were talking about some numbers. In Rodon last year when he pitched, had a fly ball rate of a 45%. And it's a concern to a degree just because of the short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium. People like to hit in the Bronx. So it's a concern that you might see a slight increase in his ERA due to the home run potential of pitching at Yankee Stadium. But on the flip side of that, the Yankees have a lefty starter already in their rotation who, over the course of the year, Nestor Cortes had the lowest ERA of all the Yankee starters, under a 2.5. So when you think of a lefty pitcher, I'm using him as my reference for positive potential. Maybe Rodon can keep it in the ballpark. Maybe he can have like a Nestor Cortes kind of season on that left, big lefty throwing the ball. Nestor is a different type of pitcher, is a little more finesse, doesn't quite have like that 95 mile an hour fastball. But I mean, what really it's the innings pitched. The fact that his FIP, the fact that that's a 2.25 and he pitched 178 innings with a defense behind him that wasn't strong in the MLB by really any measures. It's encouraging to see, and especially and I think the Yankees probably got him for a little less than the value that we were expecting him to get.
Yeah, I agree. Jake and I had him down. I'm just looking at the pitching market and the free agent market in general. We had him down at 6 years, $30 million a year, which would have been 180. So about a $20 million discount is not too bad. And one thing that we mentioned in the last episode too, we're looking at the other pitching options like Manaea, Stripling on the free agent market. And Chef, you did a look before the episode at some of the free agents out there who are some pretty elder statesmen of the game, we'll say, to be nice.
They're all so old. I'm being dramatic.
Yeah, so I think Ross Stripling ended up going to the Giants for a shorter deal, a 3-year deal, I think $21 million a year. I think Rodon is better than it's more than $6 million better than Ross Stripling. And I think the Yankees did the good job of getting the premier pitcher, the ace on the market, because the value that he brings, the Giants need pitching and innings. The Yankees need playoff wins. And I think that that higher value for Rodon is going to be well worth it for the Yankees. And ultimately, we're going to have injuries, but we have a really good starting five right now of Cole, Rodon, Nestor, Sevy, and Montas. Four of those with the only one who's not in this next category, which I have to say first, they're all number ones. They all have been number ones in the last 4 years on a team. And Sevy's had injuries. Montas had a down year with the Yankees. But Cole and Rodon have shown in recent memory being Cy Young level potential, and Montas has always had that in him, being potential. He's been top 5 in the past with Oakland. So that's a really deep starting pitching lineup, and I love that signing for the Yankees.
Agreed. I'm a little bit of a believer of let me see it first before I buy in, because we've seen in the past, it's a small sample size with Montas, but some people, Liam, come to the Bronx and the lights are really bright in the Bronx. Like, we expect to win. We expect to go to the postseason. We expect to win championships. And sometimes the numbers don't translate. Montas, this is just with the Yankees, and his 8 starts had it over a 6. Those aren't the numbers that he had in Oakland. We got him from Oakland expecting him to honestly pitch better. We did. Granted, things happened. He came mid-season. There's a lot of doom and gloom when he came over to the Yankees. They weren't winning in August. They had a rough out of the All-Star break. So it wasn't the perfect situation, but Sonny Gray. Oh, everybody was so excited about the Sonny Gray deal a few years ago, and he didn't put up the numbers that we expected. So, I mean, Rodon on paper, for the Yankees, it looks great. I'm excited, and I think the Yankee Nation should be happy. I want to see it first. I want to see what we get. I want to see if we can get those 170 innings out of him.
And a lot of fans have that mindset because I think Rodon, he shows a lot of energy and fire on the mound. So I think if he gets off to a successful start, like first few months with the Yankees, we're going to love him. Yankees fans are really going to love him. After big strikeouts, he shows a lot of energy. He pumps his fist. His wife is big on Twitter. When he got snubbed from the All-Star game at first last year, despite being a top 3 pitcher in the NL, his wife went out to Twitter and was like, what the hell? Who's picking this? Like, we deserve it. And he's like, and he doesn't shy away from it. He's like, yeah, no, I'm a winner. I'm a good pitcher. He was on R2C2, which is the podcast hosted by Ryan Ruocco and CC Sabathia last year after he signed. And CC was like, damn, man, like, I think you would have been a good fit in New York. Like, I could see you kind of having similar energy to me, you know? And Rodon kind of alluded to it. He only had a 1-year deal with San Francisco with an opt-out. He kind of alluded to like, oh, like I could see myself face shaven. You know, I like Judge. Judge is pretty cool. So I don't think we get Rodon if we don't retain Judge. Which is great.
That's a great point. And it's not just baseball either. People want to go play with people. You look at the other league, these big names go places and people go and follow them.
Yeah.
People go and follow them. And then when people get those deals and they're solidified to their team for long periods of time, I think you guys know what I'm alluding to at this point. You're going to see people follow them and you're going to see these big signings and you're going to see big names on the move.
Yeah. And I think the pressure of New York is a lot more alluring when you have the best offensive player in baseball there. Because
the people watching, they're going to let you know. They're going to let you know if you're not performing.
And speaking of letting someone know, I think we can jump to briefly. I know it's not Yankees related, but it kind of is the Carlos Correa deal with the Mets going. More heartbreak for the Giants between us taking Judge, Rodon leaving, and them missing out on who they had an almost confirmed signing with Correa once there was issues with a physical, jumping to New York and signing a 12-year, $15 million deal in Queens.
To go play out of position. Yeah. Maybe not out of position, I apologize, but to play a secondary position, I would say, for Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
That's got to be a big slap in the face.
Yeah. So he's playing alongside Lindor. He's going to play for a long, long time over there in Queens. He's going to be hated by Yankees fans. You know, even when he was playing for Minnesota, he still got a lot of the Astros treatment that Altuve and the Astros were getting. So right now, Steve Coen is spending about $360 million in payroll, but tax effective is like $495 million with all the tax thresholds that he's breaking through. So would love to see the Yankees do that in some capacity. I know Steve Coen has a lot of fuck you money. But like,
right, San Fran?
Yeah. And San Fran, I wonder for it to be that big of a deal. I know Boris apparently is notorious for like not allowing physicals to be done or the medicals to be seen by his clients before they like sign a preliminary deal. Which is kind of sketchy, but Boris has so much cred that it's like you can't because he works with the biggest players in baseball, you can't like not do that. Like you have to abide by it at this point. But yeah, I wonder what they saw in his medical because I know he's had some injury issues, especially early in his career.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll ever get that information. But for right now, I guess it's just a mystery.
Mm-hmm. But the Subway Series is going to be fun this year. So if you're a Yankees fan,
going to be a lot of fun.
Go to both. I was gonna say head out to the stadium, go to Citi Field, take that. I take the 7 to the 4 every single game I go to. So go the other way. If you're from the Bronx, from the city, get in, pack Citi Field with Yankees fans. That's a fun environment, and we'll boo Carlos Correa ourselves.
I was actually able to go to both this year. Citi Field's cool.
I love Citi Field.
Citi Field is neat. It's from our spot in Jersey. It's a little bit more of a trek, but
yeah.
So I'll stick to the Bronx, guys.
Yeah. And our last topic is the Judge signing became official on Tuesday. And I guess we shouldn't take that for granted now looking at San Francisco. But the thing is, the Yankees knew Judge's medical history, so that was always going to be the truth. And there was a half surprise that came out on Wednesday at the press conference, which I think Yankees fans all kind of knew deep down in their hearts. But Aaron Judge has been named the 16th captain of the New York Yankees. So congrats to Aaron Judge. Well deserved. Claps to the
Well,
mic.
well done, Aaron.
Yeah.
Next time I see you, I'll give you a handshake.
What do you think of that move?
Fantastic. I think he deserves every penny of it. He was the best hitter in baseball. He was deservedly the MVP. I think the Yankees did the right move. Granted, I got to give Judge some credit because he turned down the offer prior to the season and basically bet on himself. And you know what, Aaron Judge, you cashed out. You won. The and the thing is, he didn't let it. At least I didn't know this, Liam. I don't know if you did either, but he always wanted to be Yankee. He always wanted to wear the pinstripes. I don't know how true the rumor is about how much money. What was it? I think San Fran offered him 10 for 400.
That was San Diego. The rumor was 10 for 4, and then San Fran was apparently more than 9 for 60, which was ambiguous. So I think it might have been 9 years, but more average annual.
Okay, my fault. The Padres offered him 10 for 400. But he always wanted to be a Yankee. It turns out, and he bet on himself, and it paid off. And the Yankees did the right thing when they signed him. There hasn't been a lot of turnover. The Yankees signed him and named him the captain. I think they did the right thing. It's well deserved. And I think it meant a little more as a Yankee fan. I'm not that old. Derek Jeter was the captain. Derek Jeter was the captain when I was growing up. And you know what? Derek Jeter would go out there, and it wasn't the Yankees if Derek Jeter wasn't on the field. Like, he was the guy. Derek Jeter was the face of the New York Yankees, and he couldn't always be, obviously. And now we have a new face of the New York Yankees, as you could debatably say. I think some people would agree. He's the face of baseball right now. That man draws crowds. That man makes money for the New York Yankees. The man hits. The man produces. The man strikes out a lot. But I think he has deserved every penny that he's gotten, that he's getting. Good for the Yankees. Good for Aaron Judge. And I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent, Liam, but the one thing that Aaron Judge did that really proved me wrong was he played 157 games this year.
Yeah.
That's what impressed me. He proved me wrong. I genuinely did not think Aaron Judge was going to sniff 120. And Aaron Judge went out there and played 157 games. Now, granted,
a lot of which were in center field.
Yes. He was chasing the home run record. So he was getting out there and he was trying to play every day he could until he broke the record. So that helped. But at the same time, sometimes the best ability, Liam, is availability. And Aaron Judge was available all season long. And I'm impressed. He proved me wrong. And that was really the biggest thing that I was looking for. I wasn't expecting Aaron Judge to go hit more home runs than to break the AL home run record.
And we should never again.
No, who would expect that? But what really impressed me is how available he was, how many games he played. And now I think, Liam, you would agree with me that we don't expect Aaron Judge to be playing 157 games. I don't think we want Aaron Judge playing 157 games.
Nope.
I would probably give or take, I think 15 is a better number than 10, somewhere around. I think that puts him around 140. Like, that's a captain. Your captain's going to go out there, he's going to produce, and he's going to play. He's going to be available. And I know 9 years is a long time, and I'm not usually a fan of such long deals, but I think Aaron Judge has earned every penny of it.
Yeah, I agree. And he gives you so much tangibly on the field, but also the intangible, the leadership, the presence, the attraction. Players want to play with Aaron Judge because he is the star, but he is a selfless star. By all accounts of every person in that locker room, they always mention you get the same treatment, and it's not, you get the same great treatment, whether you're a Hall of Fame walk-in or you're a rookie coming up of spring training to guys that get called up. He gives you that reverence. He reaches out to every person that comes over, every interview I've heard from guys who come through. He's been the de facto captain for years, even when he was a rookie. That was CC's team, but Judge was taking it over. So to formalize it and to solidify it is great for him, great for us, the history of the franchise. And hopefully, like you said, I think the Yankees in previous years have shown a lack of urgency to win certain games and certain series. Like, they see every game, which mathematically is true. They see every game as the same, when I think we kind of know as fans, and the players would probably agree that certain games are bigger than others throughout the year in terms of, making sure you get a series against the division rival, or, making sure you win certain games with your top guys on the mound. So I think Judge maybe, I don't want to see him have a high 150 games played again, but for him to be able to go to the office as the captain and be like, hey, like, I think I should play tonight. I think we shouldn't bench Giancarlo tonight. Like even though the analytics you have is written down as a rest day, he has a good matchup here. I think we should try and win this game. And if he can sit at 140 plus 140, not even plus 140 to 150 the rest of his career, that would be great because he has the potential to hit 45 home runs every year that he plays 140 games, which is wild to think about. But and even he's a big guy. We're going to keep him out of center field, hopefully, having Bader solidified as our center fielder. So Yankees right field is just not a lot of ground to cover, which highlights his incredible arm and even his defensive range even more with less wear and tear put on his body. So yeah, I would love to see him play and stay healthy. And I think he can. He's had some freak injuries in the last few years. He's been pretty good.
Agreed. I think the biggest knock, Liam, is he can cut down on the strikeouts. And the next step for Aaron Judge, he's got to hit in the postseason.
Yeah.
It's not enough for the Yankees. We expect, as Yankee fans, I expect to win 100 games every year. I really do. They got the money. They clearly have the talent this year. I expect the Yankees to win 100 games. It's not enough for them to just get to October. It's time to win. It's the Yankees. We want to win. And if Aaron Judge is going to take that next step, because the biggest knock that you can put on Aaron Judge is that he, at least this past season, did not hit in the postseason. Not well. He hit a couple home runs, but he was, I think, 5 for 36 with like 15 Ks, something like that. And granted, the Yankees as a whole did not hit well. And granted, the Astros pitching was very good in the playoffs. But his next step, Liam, if Aaron Judge is we're gonna be talking like the legacy of Aaron Judge in 30 years, it's time for him to start hitting in the postseason.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Derek Jeter is a walk-in Hall of Famer. Or he was almost unanimous. There was a lot of talk about, oh, he's not as good of a defender, and oh, Nomar had a similar peak, all that stuff. And there's some merit to some of that, but I think part of the reason is Derek Jeter's, one, his longevity over 20 years, and two, Derek Jeter hit over 300 and over a 900 OPS in his postseason career, which players don't do that. Look at postseason stats. Like the reason guys have a 900 OPS is because there are teams like Oakland and Cincinnati who aren't trying to win, and Aaron Judge, hits 5 homers off of them in a year. Aaron Judge has been a decent postseason performer rather, in that Aaron Judge being bad still has a good impact on a game because he has defense. He's a stolen base threat. He works counts because there's the fear of Judge. He gets pitched around, and the Giancarlo Stanton home run in Game 5. Judge worked a tough at bat and ended up striking out there. Like it does have an impact, but look at other big contracts. Like Alex Rodriguez was ridiculed for years for not being a postseason performer, and then finally in 2009 he plays like A-Rod, and he is one of the main reasons that we won that 2009 World Series. So you're giving contracts to these big guys, but ultimately the postseason is where it counts. A-Rod gave us 2 MVPs. Judge should have 2 MVPs. He has 1 and an all-time season. So I think that's where, all the intangible that he gives throughout the team. I think Judge not only is going to have to set a clubhouse culture that's a championship culture, but also be that postseason performer that leads us to the promised land.
Yeah, hard to disagree with any of that. But now's the time. You're going to be the captain. You got a legacy to live up to.
All right, so that is the recent Yankees news, and now we're going to jump into our Christmas wish list for 2023. It's our holiday episode, so we're going to give you some of the things that we want to see under the tree, promises from Santa Claus that the Yankees are going to perform this way in 2023, and we think if we can get all these items that we might be able to deliver that elusive championship from the past few years. So, Chef, you want to get us going?
I would love to, Liam. Okay, so the first thing on my wish list has to do with the starting pitching. So the Yankees starting rotation is Gerrit Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, Frankie Montas. They would be, in my opinion, if I had to write them down 1 to 5, that would be the order I would put them in. My wish list is that by the end of the season, I personally don't have an innings goal, like how many innings I want them to pitch. Because I'm going to drive myself nuts if I do that. But I think all 5 of these starting pitchers, Liam, can finish with a sub 4.0 ERA. Garrett Cole had a 3.5. Rodon had a 2.8. Cortez had a 2.4. Severino had a 3.2, just about. And as a Yankee, this is the important part. As a Yankee, Frankie Montas' ERA was higher than a 6. Now, those weren't the numbers, Liam, that we saw from Frankie Montas when he was the ace over in Oakland. So I know there were a lot of things going on. He came over mid-season. He's obviously looking at the ERA. He's the one that you're concerned about. Granted, the Yankees as a whole didn't play their best baseball post All-Star break, and Montas sadly contributed to that. But I mean, we've seen the numbers. We know he can be an ace. We know he can pitch, and I very well think he can get healthy. He can fix some things, and he can get his ERA under a 4.0. I mean, of the starting pitchers, Garrett Cole, we know his weakness is the home run ball, and that's also sort of the tragedy, the blessing and the curse of Yankee Stadium. As a hitter, you love it. You love having a lefty. I mean, do you know how many times I saw Brett Gardner squeak one 315 feet over the right field wall when he was playing for a 1 out of 30? I loved it. It was fantastic. It was fantastic to watch. But that's Garrett Cole's kryptonite right now, is that home run ball. And if he can cut down on that, Garrett Cole's 3.5 will get even lower. And we know the strikeout capability he has. I don't know the number exactly. I can probably find it next time I mute, but his strikeout potential per 9 innings is ridiculous. One of the best in the league. Rodon was sub 3. Liam, you made a great point about the fly ball rate. That is definitely a concern of mine with just the short porch and the home run ball. So, I mean, I still think Rodon is a great signing and he'll do well. And I'm using Nestor Cortez more as a example of me trying to think that he can stay under a 3, because Nestor is a 2.4. If Nestor can stay off the IL, I would love that. But I think Nestor's nasty, dude. We saw him pitch in that game 5, and he was so good. He's a tough little son of a to get a hit off the fan. Severino, I think it's more of a health concern. And not the talent's there. We know what he can do. We've seen it. Now I want to see more of it. And I think if he can stay healthy, he's got good stuff. I think he'll give the bullpen a nice reprieve if Severino can keep going the distance longer. Because I have a slight concern about the back end of the bullpen for the Yankees, but we'll get into that later. And then Montas with the 6.35. I really do think he can clean it up, Liam. How do you feel? I think Montas is the big question mark right now. I think we've seen what he can do, and I think the Yankees brought him in feeling good. I still think the Yankees feel pretty good about him. Curious, what do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I think the Yankees have approached their staff pretty well in the offseason. Like, I think reinforcing with Rodon is the right thing to do, because Montas, he gave you a flash of what the bottom looks like, of what the bottom end of what he can do looks like. And if that is a 5 starter, then ultimately he's competing with Herman for that 5th starter. But he has it's a really small sample size, especially for starting pitchers, where Montas only got a few, I think less than 10 starts with the Yankees. 8 starts with the Yankees.
Less than 40 innings, 8 starts.
Yeah, so he had some real bad blowups. But right after the deadline, he had a family issue. There was a death in the family. He also had some injury concern. Came back at the time where the Yankees were at the lowest point of morale that they were the entire season, and his performances did contribute to some of those big losses and games that were we went up early and then he gave up 6 to 8 runs. However, Montas has a proven track record of being a top level starting pitcher. So I think to have him as your 4 or 5 level can be a crazy upside for the Yankees. In theory, your wish is that we go into the postseason and we're debating who gets those 3 to 4 starts when we go into a division series. And that's an awesome place to be, because I don't think that's been a conversation in the past few years. Taillon was that 4 that we hoped for some good stuff out of. Montas has shown that he should be better than Taillon. And Taillon was great for us these last 2 years. Like, he was a real workhorse, but ultimately he gave you 5 innings. He'd give up a big home run here and there. I'm confident in Montas. I have apprehension about some of his attitude towards the end of the year, but he was on a new team. He wasn't performing. I think if he can be sitting around a 4, even, if he's that lowest or that highest ERA rather on the sub 4 that you're looking for, sitting anywhere between 3.8 and 4.2. Honestly, with this rotation, I think that would be great from him. And we don't need great performances, but he still has that potential to be like a 2-level starter for us.
I agree with all of that. I think it's going to be really good for him that he is going to be right now the number 5 guy in the rotation.
And that's a big concern with guys coming to New York, is that if you come to New York, there's an added pressure, but if you don't have to be the one performing, I think that might help him acquaint better.
Agreed. And there was, and Liam, I don't think there's really any doubt about this. Like post All-Star break, there was a lot of doom and gloom around the Yankees for a while. They weren't pitching well. They weren't hitting. They really weren't hitting well. That was the big thing. And that's right around when Frankie Montas came in. So absolutely not what I'm saying is that this is Frankie Montas came in and changed something about the Yankees. I mean, like the Yankees were 35 over 500 at one point before the All-Star break, I think. 35, 30. They were definitely 32 above.
Yep.
And that ship got hit a few times. And I'm sure it didn't help Frankie Montas either, but the fact that he can probably come into this season behind Garrett Cole, this Rodon signing should be good for him. If Cortez can keep doing what he's doing, and if Severino stays healthy, I think Frankie Montas we're gonna see that ERA dip closer to what it was in Oakland.
I hope so.
I hope so too. That's why I'm wishing for it.
Yeah. So my first wish is going to be towards a player that I think has come around a bit in Yankees land, and I think for good reason. But my wish ultimately, I think, is our biggest concern with him is for Giancarlo Stanton to play 130 games or more. And I'm not even wishing for certain stats with him, like just for him to play, because I look back at Giancarlo Stanton's career. He has played 130 plus games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in his whole career. In those years, 2011 with Miami, 34 homers, 87 RBI. In 2014, he was an all-star, 37 homers, 105. 2015, he was hurt. 2017, 59 homers, 132 RBI in 159 games.
And that was him. 159 games?
159 games in right field for Miami. There was no DH then.
That's right. There was no DH.
So this is 6 years ago. But Giancarlo Stanton, I don't think he's a top left field option in terms of solving that problem for the whole year with a big Yankee Stadium left field, and we might talk about that a bit later. But he can play the field. He played 159 games in 2017. Even his first year as a Yankee, 158 games. He fought through injury because Judge was down. He had a bad year, quote unquote, 38 homers, 100 RBI. Like, so. And in 2021, back to it, he had 35 homers, 97 RBI in 139 games. So if Giancarlo Stanton can give us 130 games, last year he only gave us 110. He still hit 31 homers in 110 games. Giancarlo Stanton can easily give you 45 home runs at Yankee Stadium if he's somewhat healthy. And 130 games for a DH is a pretty low bar. And I think we can get him there. I think he'll need to have a healthy rotation of playing the field every few days, maybe in left fields that are favorable, like Fenway, Houston, with the Crawford boxes there. So Stanton has proven that he can be really great for us, and especially if he parlays that health into a postseason, he can carry a team with his bat through the postseason.
Liam, that's a great point. I was just going to say, I know the Yankees' past few postseason trips haven't ended the way they wanted to, but there's one guy who's shown up and hit. And Giancarlo Stanton is hitting in the playoffs. I love watching him. You look at the average last year. What did he bat last year? I think it was 210 or 211. The man hits in the playoffs. He also loves to hit against the Red Sox in Fenway. And I love it. That man hits in Fenway. I was under the impression, Liam, for a little bit that the Yankees should sign Giancarlo Stanton to a contract where he only plays at Fenway and in the playoffs. And I'm telling you, he would bat 450 with like 17 home runs in about 25 games. It would be insane. Granted, his postseason average was 188, but that actually this year, Liam, over 9 games for the Yankees, was 4th on the team in hitting, only behind Bader, IKF, and Rizzo. And then it was Stanton with a 188.
That Houston series did wonders for our offensive numbers there.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, especially those strikeout numbers.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah. Stanton is always going to be high strikeout. He's going to contribute to that. So when the Yankees look bad, Stanton's going to look the worst because he has one of the more unorthodox swings in the modern era of baseball. So when he's not on it, when he's missing, his timing is off, it looks terrible. So I think that's why he gets jumped so much, because even when he has his hot streaks, and then once he can't hit, he can't hit. But when he can hit, it seems like he hits everything.
It's almost like magic. Like every time he puts the bat through the zone and he's on, oof.
Yeah.
Oof. You don't want that ball hit anywhere near you. You really don't.
That September series against Boston in 2021, it seemed like every ball that he hit, and it included the wild card game. Stanton should have had 2 homers in the wild card game that both hit high off the monster.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Anything that found his bat path, like you would see the pitch come in and halfway, you'd be like, oh, Stanton's crushing this.
He's got it.
It felt like it was heading onto a Boston street.
Yeah, like we knew the launch angle before the ball was 30 feet towards home plate.
They should make that like in-game betting. Like as the pitch is coming, you can bet on the StatCast numbers.
we bet the launch angle, the exit velo, and the distance.
Yeah.
That would be a game. That would be quite something. You have like direct TV, and as soon as contact's made, pause. All right, gentlemen, what do we got? What are we working with here? It was a 78-mile-an-hour curveball. What do we think?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
if Giancarlo Stanton plays 130 games, honestly, I would predict him to hit 35 homers, 90 RBI. So then any more games up, you scale that rate. So he plays 150 games, I see him 45 homers, potentially 40 to 45. So that's the potential he can give you as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah. And I guess when you're hitting like that and you're driving in all those runs, I guess your batting average is less of a concern.
Yeah.
Because again, he batted 211 last year. That is not great. But again, you're right. When he hits, he's got power under it. He had 31 home runs and 78 RBIs in 110 games. So I'm kind of with you on that one.
And I think if he's healthy and playing more consistent, we kind of saw it with Rizzo this year, where Rizzo had a surprisingly low batting average, but he was hitting with power. And Rizzo also gets on base so well. He takes so many hit by pitches and walks, where it became less of a concern because his on base percentage was still in the high 300s, near 400. So with Stanton, I think sometimes he accumulates those strikeouts in short order, where he has games where he's just non-competitive. So I think if he's healthy and consistent, we're going to see that walk rate a bit higher, so he can still be productive, just moving the line down, because now our lineup is pretty deep. So especially if Stanton cannot be a hole in it when he's not hitting as well, but he can kind of keep the line moving and take a walk, 20% of the time, 10% of the time. 20 would be a lot, 10% of the time.
That'd be sick, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You walk 20% of the time.
20% Giancarlo Stanton walk rate.
Damn, sign me up. Yeah. I got my next wish list. We talk health of players. I completely agreed with what you said about Aaron Judge. Probably, he played 157. We probably don't want to see him playing 157 for the next 9 years. He's probably not going to play for 9 more years if that happens. So I think, what'd you say, like 140, 135, give or take the 15 from there. I would love to see Aaron Judge stay healthy. If he can stay off the IL, I think that would be great. And my other player health concern is a guy, I think he's been a Yankee for the past couple of years. And I think the Yankees are still waiting for the bat to fully return, because I know I was reading he has a toe injury. Is DJ LeMahieu needs to get 100% healthy. I think a lot of things are going to change for the Yankees. I really think they've been missing that high batting average guy, that guy that's going to get on base, the guy that's going to move guys from first to third with base hits. I think the Yankees have really been missing that from DJ. I actually had to look him up because I couldn't find him on rosters and things. And I'm like, is DJ not a Yankee anymore? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he just won a Gold Glove. So Also having him in his back pocket for guys just in case they go down, because DJ can play second, he can play first, he can play third. Really, if you were really, really stuck and you want to throw him in left field, I'm sure he could do that too. But that is a less than ideal option in my opinion. So, sorry.
That's in case of emergency.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I love DJ LeMahieu. And what did he bat last year? Let's see.
It was skewed down because of the end of the year. Like he tried to play through it at the end and he looked really bad.
He finished with a 261.
Yeah.
Which was still, it was tied for IKF for fifth on the Yankees in batting average.
And for a lot of that year, I remember it hovering from seeing it in the stadium at around 280. So
yes.
Which was usually second to Judge.
I would also like to put a little asterisk on the last statement that I just made. I said he was tied for fifth in batting average with IKF. The website I'm using has no adjustment towards games played and games started. So technically, Robert Brantley led the Yankees in batting average with 333 in one game. Robert Brantley, well done.
Rob Brantley.
Round of applause. You did what you needed to do. You got up 3 times.
He went 1 for 3 last
and you hit a double. And he hit a double. So
Rob Brantley taking Jose Trevino's spot.
Wow, that would be a spicy episode.
Yeah.
That is all-star Jose Trevino to you, by the
way. That's potentially team MVP Rob Brantley you're talking about.
Wow. He's really climbed the ranks in the past minute. Rob Brantley, I can't wait to see you out on opening day behind the plate. Yep. Okay, Leo, my next wish list is that the ultimate goal of the New York Yankees, like I said, when you put on pinstripes, I personally expect you to win 100 plus games. And the Yankees almost did that this year. They went 99 and 63. Is that what they went? I think so. They won 99 games.
Yep.
So you guys broke my heart a little bit. But you expect to win 100 games. And at this point, going to the next season, going by the previous seasons, especially in the AL, the Astros are the team to beat right now. And when you talk and you want to win, you have to think, can X team play with the Astros right now? It kills me to say it, but I really think you have to think that way. Can we compete with the Astros? And yes, they lost Verlander, but the Astros are a good baseball team. And my wish list is that the Yankees are able to confidently put out improved pieces at all positions that you feel confident in. And I am a little uncertain with our third base and left field options currently. So I'm not entirely sure what my wish list, what my wish is, Liam, for those positions. I know IKF was the shortstop last year. He had a rough season in the field if you look at it. But IKF is a third baseman as well. I don't know if that's the best option, but I personally don't feel very confident right now in the Yankees' third base spot and the left field spot, both defensively and offensively, if I'm being honest. So I think the Yankees have to look there. I'm very excited for a 100% healthy Bader in center field, especially after what we saw in the playoffs. He batted, I think he was the 333 in the playoffs. Yes. Yeah. I'm very excited to see Harrison Bader in center field. I think that is going to be a nice upgrade for the Yankees if he can stay healthy. But I don't know how I feel about our third base and left field options currently on both sides of the baseball. And it's production and a little bit of contract issues as well, in my opinion, that they're a little stuck.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Donaldson gave a really solid defensive performance last year, but the offensive trade-off made it really, really tough. And especially, like you said, to the contract numbers, Donaldson gets paid about $20 million a year, I believe.
He's making close to Correa money this year.
Yeah.
And that's why I say the Yankees are stuck. I can't imagine they can offload that to somebody else.
Yeah, and why I think the Correa contract is still solid for the Mets is that I don't think Correa is ever going to have this offensive down that Josh Donaldson has now. Just because he's a bit more athletic and nimble, he can always have that contact piece where Donaldson looked really lost at the plate. And Donaldson's MVP years, he was relying on big coordinated swings. Like he's a lot going on with his mechanics that he's like a hitting guru, like he has really refined, but as you lose a little bit of speed, like that fraction of a millisecond as you get older, I think he's kind of lost it at the plate, and his reaction time and his picking up pitches out of the hand is a bit down. So I think he's a bad defensive option. And then you look at the backup options on the roster right now, is IKF, who won a Gold Glove at third, but then his offensive production, what do you do with that? Does he have a good enough arm? He won the Gold Glove at third in a 60-game season, where I think a lot of the journalists, not to take away from IKF's Gold Glove, I'm sure he performed well, but I'm sure a lot of journalists weren't watching the different divisions that weren't, the East, Central, and West COVID divisions. So it wasn't like the Yankees, like we never played the Rangers in 2020, so that was all the AL and NL West. So with his arm, does that project well? It's a lot of uncertainty. And then Oswaldo Cabrera or Aaron Hicks are our two left field options right now. And we saw what happened with Aaron Hicks last year. I do not believe in him to play a full year of left field. And Oswaldo Cabrera, as much as I love him and has been an electric piece for the Yankees, we saw in person and a few times throughout the playoffs, left field is like his fifth position. He never played outfield in the minors. He only played a few games of left field, and then he was our starting left fielder in the playoffs. Having him jump around the diamond, actually him and Hicks were the ones who collided in that game 5 with Oswaldo Cabrera playing shortstop. And I think earlier in the Cleveland series, Oswaldo had collided or let a ball drop with Donaldson in left field, just because it's a little bit unnatural. Like, it's not the hardest position, but you have to be used to playing there on a professional level. You can't just walk in and play left field or expect that of even your best athletes. So yeah, right now, those are our two biggest holes, both offensively and defensively. And the only thing that we can guarantee, even it's not a guarantee, is maybe some solid third base defense from Donaldson, if that's who's in there. But then I think we have 3 holes, which is left field offense and defense, as well as third base offense.
I would completely agree with that, Liam. Yeah, I think Donaldson's age is just kind of catching up to him.
Yeah,
he was second on the Yankees in strikeouts. That's the concerning part for me. Like, we've seen what he's done in the past, and it's age is a brutal thing. Sometimes it doesn't. Some people just don't age well, and I just don't think he's the answer. If the Yankees, like, the Astros are a good team. There's other good teams in the AL too, not just the Astros. Like, the Blue Jays are going to be relevant for a while. They're young, they got talent. So the Yankees are going to have to fight in the AL East for a while. The Rays are pesky. The Rays are tough. And the Rays never go down without a fight. The Blue Jays are young. They're going to be relevant. I don't even want to talk about the Red Sox. It hurts me on the inside, unless we're talking about Stanton just yarfing him over the Green Monster. That's fine with me. And even the Orioles are getting better. Like, the AL East is competitive, and if you're gonna win, the Yankees need to put out the best lineup that they can. And like I've said, Liam, I'm not super familiar with the free agent market. I'm not great with the Yankees prospects. I know they have Oswaldo Cabrera, Peraza, and this kid, that kid Anthony Volpe I've been hearing about. I don't know if they're the better options. I don't know if sticking them in and benching Donaldson or benching Hicks is the option. I have no idea. But when you look at the starting lineup, especially offensively, you got a big old question mark on those 2 spots, like you said, third base and left field. And what's the best way to go about it? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what the Yankees are thinking, what Cashman and Steinbrenner have. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think to your point, not knowing if the prospects are the better option is not on you, is the nature of prospects. Like,
that's why they're a prospect.
Exactly. So I think really the answers to those questions is, how much are you willing to give up in a trade for somebody? Because literally this morning that we're recording, Michael Conforto signed with the Giants, which congrats to the Giants for signing somebody successfully. Let's clap it up for them a little bit.
Well, way to go, guys.
So I think that takes off basically with no Nimmo gone. It takes off pretty much all the free agent options in the outfield. At least that would be upgrades from Aaron Hicks, in my opinion. There's guys like David Peralta who's also really old, had a bad year when he went over to Tampa. But I think we're looking at trade pieces now, and that's some of the options that Jake and I spoke about on our previous episode for left field. Brian Reynolds at the high end for Pittsburgh, which is going to take a lot. The rumor that I heard that the Yankees are looking at him and they're in talks with Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is looking more for starting pitching prospects, which the Yankees are much deeper on position player. You mentioned, Peraza, Cabrera, Volpe, to name a few. Also, the Martian, Jason Dominguez. Spencer Jones, their first round pick from last year, is also pretty well touted because he came out of Vanderbilt. So a lot of teams consider him to be like a pretty pro ready bat. But the Yankees aren't very deep in their starting pitching depth at the minor league level. So you have like Luis Heel, who we saw. David Garcia has been really struggling in the minor leagues, even though he was pretty good in that 2020 year. And that's like Yuendrys Gomez, who a lot of even in the weeds Yankees fans haven't heard of just because he hasn't performed that well. So we'll see what we can get from left field. I could see if we get like a left fielder, we might have to give some professional guys. Like that might be Gleyber Torres going with Oswald Peraza, with Oswaldo Cabrera. I think the Yankees want to hold on to Volpe. Volpe is like their prized jewel right
He's
now.
the
And
top guy, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And I only see Volpe going if we get like Tatis or somebody, at that level, or Soto. Yeah, and even for Soto, I'd be hesitant because the Yankees would have to sign him because he's a free agent after the end of this year.
Okay.
So, yeah, what that looks like, I don't know, because we see the Yankees get different trade offers and trade evaluations for being like they get taxed basically for being the Yankees. That teams are hesitant to trade with them and give them like a pro ready piece to win a World Series because teams are rightfully bitter. And I guess as much as value as they can extract out of the Yankees while they have a good farm system is what they should do. So that could be Dalton Varsho of the Diamondbacks. That could be Brian Reynolds, or it could be just like an MLB average player replacement level, or if that's the high end, like Tatis or Soto. That's where we're giving up like everybody. Every prospect that you've loved is going to be gone. Plus Gleyber Torres, plus Aaron Hicks, plus all of them.
Yeah, Gleyber's the name, Liam, that I've been hearing. Not like anything specific, but anytime I hear trade for the Yankees, it's a package with Gleyber. And I'm like, okay. But I'm glad. What I am glad about, I know we're a little off topic now, but I'm glad that they moved Gleyber back to second last year. I kind of like the shift over. I'm defensively, I'm not crazy about who went to shortstop, but I'm glad that Gleyber was able to go back to second. I thought that was the right move by the Yankees.
Yeah, and hopefully the Yankees recognize the same mistake they made with Gleyber was a similar mistake they made this year.
We can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope. And that's the reason why Gleyber's in those talks is because we had a surplus at those middle infield positions. There's Peraza, who we saw. There's IKF, who we have, who can play shortstop, can certainly play second base and third base. There's Volpe. So between those guys, they're all pro ready this year. And Oswaldo Cabrera is really by trade a middle infielder who played a lot of third base in the minors and then outfield with the MLB team. So between and we have DJ. So between shortstop and second base,
I was gonna say, what about LeMahieu? Like we've hardly mentioned him, and he can do all those things too.
Between short,
which
second,
is a rarity,
and third,
by the way.
Oh yeah, no, he's great, but we should, he shouldn't be a quote unquote utility guy. He should be in the lineup every day, figuring out who's resting, where he's playing. So between second, third, and short, we have Volpe, Cabrera, Peraza, IKF, DJ, Gleyber, Donaldson. So who?
I'd imagine DJ would be the first guy up if Rizzo gets hurt or for a rest day at first.
Yeah, and I think that's why it would be nice to have some of the prospects as flexibility. Like I think Oswaldo Cabrera is really valuable to keep because if DJ becomes your first baseman, then Oswaldo can be a backup second baseman. He can be a backup third baseman as well. So there's someone ready, but I think DJ would still play every day. I don't think we even keep a backup first baseman because who else would even play there? maybe like
I think
Donaldson.
Marwin Gonzalez played there a little last year.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the roster this year, though. I think it was a
Okay.
1-year deal.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't
I'm
realize how
not
many
sure.
games he appeared in last year. He
A
played
lot,
86 games.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that number. I was like,
That's what
really?
happens with utility guys. Once you can just get in and fill in everywhere. So speaking of which, I'm gonna take this conversation into my second wish, which is I want to see Anthony Volpe on the team, and I want to see Volpe on the team before June 1st. Anthony Volpe, according to MLB.com, is the top-rated prospect in baseball in all of MLB that has not debuted in the majors yet. The four that are above him: Francisco Alvarez of the Mets, Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles, Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks, that was the name I was trying to think of, and Grayson Rodriguez, also of the Orioles. Anthony Volpe is 5. All of those guys debuted between August and September last year, or even earlier. Volpe is next. He is so highly rated. Let me read you, and you shouldn't read too much into minor league stats, but when they're this good, you should just think about it. 2021, Anthony Volpe played 109 games in the minor leagues between high A and low A ball. He hit 27 homers, 86 RBI, stole 33 bases, had an OPS of 1.027.
Wow.
Last year in 2022, between AA and AAA, 132 games, 21 homers, 35 doubles, 50 stolen bases, 802 OPS as a middle infielder.
Wow.
So
the stolen bases are crazy.
The stolen bases, and that's the thing with Volpe, is that he doesn't have to come up and he has the hit tool, but he doesn't have to come up and hit 280 and 25 homers to be good for this team, because he rates out well defensively. And if he can be a bottom of the lineup piece that can just get on base and cause some chaos for Judge at the top of the lineup with his athleticism, he can do that. Like, we see that stolen bases is the one thing that can transfer, and it won't be 50 or 60 at an MLB level, at least until he gets established. But if he could steal 25 bases, 30 bases, that's huge. And as a playoff piece, like, I would love to see him. The reason I say June 1st to have him up before, because we saw Peraza get called up in August, and he was only finding his rhythm towards the end of September. And then that's when he had a good series in Texas and he solidified his spot in the postseason. But I don't think he even made the DS roster. He made the CS roster. I forget, but he wasn't starting because IKF was starting and Oswaldo Cabrera played when we saw him.
Correct. I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't think he made the DS roster. But I think Volpe, to get the full benefit of a rookie, let him struggle in June and July, have him come up, platoon, play around the infield, and that way hopefully he can get into a rhythm. He can get some comfort with the division pitching by the end of the season. And then I think that we can see a really productive player for a really low value, a low salary, high value, low salary, to be an important playoff piece and maybe even our starting shortstop come August, September.
He could be the starting shortstop.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's why it's a wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? It sounds good to me.
Especially with the recent Yankees shortstop scenario. Who knows? We can only wish, which is what we're doing.
Liam, yes, that is all we're doing. You are absolutely correct that Peraza did not make the ALDS roster. It's interesting. I'm looking back on it, and Tim LeCastro made it.
Yep. And that's where Volpe can give you what the Yankees are looking for in Tim LeCastro.
Mm-hmm.
Tim LeCastro is that stolen base merchant. I know if Volpe were starting, maybe he wouldn't be that off the bench pinch run piece, which is Tim LeCastro's only role for the Yankees. But if Volpe is bad, at worst, he's a good Tim LeCastro. At best, he's our starting shortstop. So that's why I think you call him up and you give him run and you let him get that MLB experience, because he's ready. He's ready now. And with the high end of power of a 30 home run shortstop, sign me up.
Sign me up. Put the piece of paper in front of me right now. I'll sign up to watching Anthony Volpe this year. Give me a contract. I'll do it. I have one more, and it's about pitching again. And it's a concern. I don't know what my wish is, but I am curious as to what the Yankees are going to do with the closing spot, the back end of the bullpen, because there was, I believe it was a postseason game, but definitely towards the end of the season, that there was definitely some disagreement on how, whether it was Aaron Boone, who, sorry, wow, I just got an ad for K Jewelers on my computer and it really distracted me. I apologize, everybody. So a little disagreement on who when people were going to come in and pitch for what innings against who. And I think the big one was against Cleveland in game 3, when they held out Clay Holmes because they didn't want him to pitch again. And they had Clark Schmidt come in. Is that game 3, Liam? Do I have that right?
I think that was game 3. Yeah.
Okay. Good for me. But there was that kind of disagreement. Clay Holmes was the man in the first half of the year. Prior to the All-Star break, Clay Holmes was absolutely deservedly the best closer in baseball. Look at the numbers. He was fantastic. You look out past the All-Star break, and that's not the same dude who was pitching, at least for the next couple months. The numbers weren't there. And I know the Yankees had the Chapman was the closer for a while, and he had performance issues and disciplinary issues off the field as well. So Chapman is not an option anymore. But I'm just curious because I don't know how sold I am on Clay Holmes as the bona fide closer. You're up a run in the 9th inning. Clay Holmes is going to come in and mow down 3 guys. I should feel confident. We saw what he can do, but we also saw he got lit up a few times. And now there's this injury concern on my part. Like, how often is he going to be available? Can he pitch can he pitch Monday and then is he out Tuesday, Wednesday, and then he can come back Thursday? Is he pitch 2 innings Monday and then he's done until Friday? I don't know. That just kind of seemed like the semantics that Boone was trying to work around. It just didn't always seem like you had Clay Holmes, who was your best guy, available to be in the toughest spots. And I mean, Clark Schmidt got put in a tough spot. That game 3 was tough because he got the bad look because he gave up the runs in the late game in the end. But
he came in with runners on with
correct.
Less than 2 outs. Yeah.
Correct. So Clark Schmidt gets kind of a bad rep for it. Yeah, granted, he gave up a hit and he gave up the runs. But when you come with runners on base, you're not the closer. You come into that situation. But you had Clay Holmes, who was, I believe, was reported as available in an emergency situation.
And when's an emergency if not then?
Thank you. How is game 3 with runners on base? I believe the series was tied 1-1.
Tied 1-1 with a lead in the bottom of the 9th, with the middle of the lineup for Cleveland.
Correct. How is that not an emergency situation? Now, is that on Boone? Is that on Clay Holmes? Is that on Steinbrenner? That I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what my wish is, Liam. I'm not saying let's go, because I was looking at the relief free agents for relief pitchers, and all these dudes are so old. They're like the most available guy is 32, who has the highest WAR and the lowest ERA. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the answer. Maybe it's Clay Holmes. Maybe he is the answer. But I hope the Yankees during the offseason at least look at the options, see what they got with Clay Holmes, figure out the injury, figure out when is he going to be available and when is he not. And the Yankees need to figure out whether it's Boone. What the hell is an emergency if game 3 in the playoffs, with a lead in the 9th is not an emergency? So when do you use them, and who else? Is Zach Britton still a Yankee?
He's technically a free agent. He probably won't be, I would imagine.
Because I just remember he was the closer for the Orioles years
yeah.
ago, but I didn't think he was still a Yankee. So
yeah, with the injury, I don't think they take him back. There's Canely, who we got back.
Yes.
Loizaga, I think really your wish is a solidified closer role.
Yeah.
And the tough thing about this team is that we spoke about on previous podcasts where I think Loizaga might be our best relief pitcher, but Loizaga is really poor on back-to-back days. I think he has an over 6 ERA if he goes back-to-back.
God, I love numbers.
Yeah,
Numbers are great like that.
exactly.
Who would ever think that?
And my thought going in to one of the episodes that we did was that, all right, Johnny Loizaga, he's our closer now. And then my buddy J Ray, who was on the podcast, he was like, oh, well, he doesn't do so well back to back, or he does really poorly. So that kind of takes away a solidified closer, because sometimes you just need that two games for a series, back to back. Clay Holmes, like you said, we saw the up and down. There's Tommy Kahnle back. There's Michael King, who got hurt early in the year, but he was used for like a 2-3 inning role last year, and he was our best reliever in the 2 months that he played. And I think the rumor is he'll be good by opening day, if not like May.
Fractured elbow?
Yeah, I think
okay.
so. Yeah.
Okay, I think that was Michael King.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, so he should be back, but what does that look like? And I think like you said about Clark Schmidt, it was a really tough situation to put him in. Like, my bigger issue with the Clark Schmidt play was that it was him being chosen, not as much as him shitting the bed, because Clark Schmidt, not only was he not our solidified closer, who Clay Holmes kind of was, but Clark Schmidt had never been in that situation in the regular season. So to put him in an away game, and Cleveland is like, say what you want about the city of Cleveland being small or whatever you say, their fan base is avid and they're loud, and it's right, their stadium is right in the middle of downtown. You just walk from the downtown streets into the stadium. So there's people not in the stadium who are outside the fence screaming and everything too. Like, it's an 80,000 person atmosphere. That's unfair to Clark Schmidt, who you didn't have any run as closer. So a solidified closer would be great. We're obviously spoiled with our history of Mariano, and then having a pretty solid David Robertson and Chapman here and there, but Chapman's gone, Britton likely gone. So we're gonna have to figure out what that looks like, and can Clay Holmes prove it? I think he's the most transferable to it. It might end up being Tommy Kahnle. Maybe that's why we signed him back. But we'll see how it goes. And I think that's something we can figure out, but I'd like to figure out by July, maybe.
Agreed. And I'm looking at numbers, and really, actually, one of the relief pitchers, I don't know if he's in consideration at all for a closer role, but numbers that are really jumping out at me is Ron Marinaccio.
I think he could be. He might be at
40 games, a 2.05, and his whip. I like to look at whip for relief pitchers.
Yeah.
Because they only pitch so many innings compared to a starter. So I'm always curious as to who's given up. It's the whip with the walks. I'm always curious as to see for relievers what's their whip, and his whip is a 1.05. Clay Holmes actually is slightly lower at 1.02. Michael King had a 1.00. Nestor was under a 1, and Greg Weisser also had under a 1 in his 12 games.
And I think Marinaccio, that's a good pull, because looking at the stats, to low ERA, high amount of games. He has 4.5 hit per 9, which led everybody that threw an inning. Which is Marvin Gonzalez made the pitching stat.
You saw that too? He keeps popping up. He has a third of an inning.
I take that back. Marvin Gonzalez threw a third of an inning with a 0.0 hits per 9. So
Montas, I'm sorry, but we got a number 5 spot. Yes, let's give him a little round of applause. Well done.
So maybe that's Marinaccio. Maybe that's his role this year. I know he had some weird injury stuff towards the end of last year. But he seems to have a pretty cool head. So yeah, him as our closer, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, he's got 24 walks in 44 innings. Clay Holmes had 20 walks in 63 innings.
So, Marinaccio a bit worse on the walks end. But yes. Clay also, I feel like we should almost separate the seasons, because Clay didn't let anyone get on base for 3 months. I felt like Clay had a higher walk rate once he became human.
And this, I look at Clay Holmes as the All-Star break, pre and post. Because you could look at a lot of Yankees actually like that, pre and post. Because
August was one of the worst months in Yankees history.
It was, it was.
Actually, statistically.
Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of doom and gloom for the Yankees come August and late July. There was a lot of doom and gloom. But
There was a day in June I ended up pulling the trigger. I think I texted Jake, and I had been waiting on it because the Yankees started off so well. It was like mid-June. I texted, if the Yankees go 500 the rest of the year, they win 100 games. And the Yankees ended up winning 99 games. So they went under 500 after mid-June, and they had a good September. So that goes to tell you how shitty between the All-Star break and September 1st was for the Yankees.
yeah, it was a disaster on all fronts.
Yep.
Hitting, defensive, pitching, just nobody was the same. But they played well enough to sneak in and still get that 2 spot.
Yeah.
How many games behind the Astros were they?
I think like 6 to 8. I think the
Okay.
Astros won like 106 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I could also just look that up, couldn't I?
While you look it up, I'm gonna go into my last wish and our last wish. My top of the list, big, bold, large present Santa wish for 2023 is for the Yankees to win their 28th World Series in franchise history. And I think how they do it is like we spoke about today. They solidify some of their weak spots. They've built a pretty deep team. They pull out some consistency. Hopefully empower the manager, and they're not to be infighting and the weird stuff that we saw towards the end of last year. So we'll see. We'll see if Captain Aaron Judge makes an impact on that. But I think that's a wish that we all share.
I think so. And Liam, I don't think the Yankees need to be absolutely scorching hot for up until the All-Star break and be 35 over. They don't need to do that. I think we need more consistency.
Yep.
I think the Yankees obviously need to go into the All-Star break leading the division. I would love it. But there's just got to be more consistency as a whole, which is tough because baseball's a long season. You play a lot of games with not a lot of days off. So I think on the quest to the 28th championship, Liam, I think as a whole, the Yankees need to be more consistent. I think the Astros were a much more consistent baseball team throughout the season. And you could probably throw an argument out there for a couple other teams as well in the American League that they were more consistent. Because like you said, the Yankees had an August to forget. So I think if the Yankees can be more consistent and if some of their top guys can notch down those strikeout numbers, like if Aaron Judge can bring it down, Stanton and Donaldson, if they could really bring those strikeout numbers down and make contact, especially if you get DJ back, like I said, the Yankees, I think, really miss DJ with a runner on first and getting a guy from first to third. I think the Yankees really miss that. And especially if Volpe is going to come in and steal some bases at some point, whenever they call him up, because I think it's inevitable that they will call him up.
No.
I think for us, it's when. But if he's going to bat ninth and he's going to get on base and he steals second, and then you got DJ leading off. I love DJ in the leadoff spot personally. And you can get Volpe moving from first to third with his speed, or if he gets on second, you get DJ slapping something the other way, going from second to home. It's going to change some things. But I think the Yankees need to be more consistent.
Yeah, and you look at teams like the Astros. Like the Astros were never that far behind the Yankees when the Yankees were, the best team in baseball last year, and they just played the same throughout the whole time. Same thing with teams like Seattle, even Tampa Bay. Like we're better than the Rays, but the Rays just kind of held the same record the whole year, snuck into the playoffs, and obviously didn't do so well. But we spend about $200 million more than the Rays do, so I would hope that the Yankees would. You can have that level of consistency and just be better. Who do you think are the biggest obstacles for the Yankees to win?
That's a great question.
Where do you think Houston lands again? Because they lost Verlander, they added Jose Abreu, and then otherwise they're pretty much the same team.
Yeah, Houston's pitching is impressive.
Yeah.
Who is I can't think of the guy's name for Houston that pitched. He pitched extremely well in the playoffs this year. I think it was a big lefty.
Framber Valdez?
Yeah, him. He was an animal. He was an absolute animal. I think I'm looking at American League obstacles. Toronto's going to be tough because, like I said, they're young. I think their guys are going to keep getting better. Manoah left, didn't he? He's somewhere else. Or is Alek Manoah still a Blue Jay?
I think Alek Manoah is still there.
Okay. Alek Manoah is also a beast.
He's a beast.
I think Toronto could be tough.
Yeah, he's still there.
They finished 7 behind the Yankees. The Yankees were 35 over at one point. They finished 7 behind the Yankees in the East. So I think the Blue Jays could be tough. I don't think Tampa's going to win the division, but the Tampa Bay is pesky against the Yankees, and they definitely take series that you don't expect them to. I don't know really much about Cleveland or if they added anybody.
They added Josh Bell.
The power guy from Padres.
Well, he played for Pittsburgh. Oh yeah, he ended up a Padre last year. I forgot about that. Yeah, he was in Washington, and then he got traded for Luke Voigt. He was on the Padres at the end of last year.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's the White Sox. They signed Benintendi, right? That was the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
That was. I wish he was still a Yankee.
Yeah.
Personally, if he could stay healthy. I really think the Blue Jays are going to cause the Yankees some issues.
Yeah.
Because they can score runs. I'm looking at this. They were second in the American League in runs scored.
Yeah.
Behind the Yankees.
So if they can get another really good year out of Manoah, I mean, they lost Ross Stripling, who was pretty good for them. Jose Barrios was terrible. But Barrios has like some, he's been a number 1 pitcher for Minnesota in the past. So I think he had like a 5.5 ERA. So I imagine him, even if he gets down to like a 4 or 5, and that's another 3 or 4 wins from Barrios starts. So yeah, I could see them getting the Yankees away, especially in the division. Their manager situation was weird last year. He got fired mid-season, so maybe they're more solidified. They have better leadership.
I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm looking at on MLB.com, Liam, that I'll make a comment on is teams' records against other teams that were above 500. So the Yankees were 7 above. They were 50-43 against teams over 500. The only other teams last year who were above, Cleveland went 500 against teams that were better than 500. They went 34-34, which is incredible because that is 93, 68. It's 25 games less than the Yankees had against teams over 500.
Yep.
And there's 2 other teams.
That's the AL Central for you.
Yeah, it is the AL Central for you. You're right. They're the only division that had 1 playoff team. The only other 2 teams, so it's the Yankees above 500 and Cleveland is 500. And then it's Houston. They were 15 over. And then Seattle were 5 over. They were 38-33.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Seattle. I know they had the Rookie of the Year, right? Rodriguez won it?
Okay. Rodriguez won. Their pitching was pretty solid. And even Robbie Ray, who they had signed, didn't have like a great year. They're looking to win.
They are looking to win, you're right. And they signed somebody who was the Castillo.
They got Castillo at
that was it. That was
deadline.
A great signing by them.
And he was great for them.
He killed the Yankees.
Yeah.
He killed the Yankees this year.
Yeah. And I think that
because he got traded, they had to go against him like 3 more times.
Yeah.
Because where did he come from?
He came from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. I remember I was actually thinking of going to that Cincinnati series because the Reds are. I have a very good friend of mine who's a Reds fan, and it's just, you thought doom and gloom was in Yankees. Was in our blood in August. Oh my God. I feel so bad for him, dude. I feel so bad. But I remember I think the tickets were like $14 because the Reds were just not having a good year.
Yeah.
And I almost went. And the Yankees, I think the Reds took 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And Castillo went.
That was when Clay Holmes started being really terrible.
That was it. And I think Castillo went 7 or 8 against the Yankees.
Yeah,
and then he got traded to Seattle, and they had to go against
them. And he pitched like the next week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. It was like a week or 2 later. You're absolutely right.
Aaron and I went to the game where Castillo pitched. It was like early August.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Castillo had like a really good game and we lost.
Yeah, he's good. I was hoping he'd go to the Yankees, but some people don't want to go to the Yankees. Some people are just straight up no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, your loss. We got the money.
Hopefully this roster is ready. Well, maybe not quite ready yet, but I think this roster wants to win in New York. They got a good leader behind them, Aaron Judge. I think Boone is good with the players, and hopefully that can translate over to the decision-making team. we put ourselves in positions to win. But I think number 28 is my final wish of this year.
That would be a lovely gift, Liam. Let me tell you. I wish I could give it to you right now. I really do. I wish I could wrap it up and send it, but
we'll have to wait. There's some supply chain issues, so we're gonna have to wait until next October for it to ship.
I'll give Hal a call.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. All right. Any last things you want to get off your chest?
No, I think my wish list kind of nailed it. I got really my biggest concern, Liam, is our third base and left field.
Yeah.
And third base I'm worried about just because of Donaldson's contract. Because you can talk, obviously you cannot play him. You could do that. But no matter what, no one's going to take this $20-ish million off your hands, especially now that you just saw what money Correa made. Like the fact Donaldson's making like $1 million less, I think. Yeah. I can't imagine anyone's going to do that, especially at his age. And he's got,
unless we pocket like half of it, like take 10-15 million of our own.
So, and I know I've been giving Donaldson a lot of flack, but I mean, defensively, he's not a bad option. It's just you have to put him in a lineup, and that's where you lose me.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. All right. So to everybody listening and watching, have a very Merry Christmas. Have a happy holiday season. We'll be providing more updates on our socials, on Instagram and TikTok at Pinstripe Pulse Pod. You can follow us on Twitter at Pinstripe_Pulse. We're doing a little more there. Whenever the news comes in, we'll do some retweeting and story posting. Make sure you listen to this and share with your friends. We hope you enjoy this time with your families and your loved ones. And Chef, Tom, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Liam. This is a lot of fun.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. See you guys.